Dark Souls is one of the most challenging and engaging RPGs out there. Both Dark Souls titles are among my favorite games, and I am quite excited for Dark Souls 3 next year. In anticipation of Dark Souls 3, I wanted to share my favorite Dark Souls bosses. Now, these bosses are only from the original Dark Souls. The bosses from Dark Souls 2 will be getting their own favorite 5, as I love so many of the bosses from that game as well. So, in no particular order, here are my favorite 5 Dark Souls bosses. Number 1. The Four Kings. In the world of Dark Souls, the Abyss is a place of utter darkness that threatens to envelop everything. And of course, in order to complete your quest, you have to face off against the Four Kings in this void. The Four Kings were once the just rulers of New Londo. But when a primordial serpent tempted them with the power of becoming dark wraiths, they fell into darkness. New Londo was flooded to contain the spread of the Abyss, sacrificing the entire city and leaving it as a ruin haunted by numerous ghosts. After making your way through the freakiest area in the game, you plunge into the Abyss. The battle against the Four Kings is one of the most terrifying and intense in all of Dark Souls. You initially fight one king, but soon the other kings will join the battle. The Four Kings are pretty horrifying to fight alone, and their spectral swords and dark magic attacks can do a terrible amount of damage to your character. The atmosphere of this boss battle is very scary, and the lore of the Four Kings and fighting them in the blackness of the Abyss makes for one of my favorite fights in the whole game. Number 2. Ornstein and Smell. Your arrival in the grand city of Anor Londo marks the halfway point in Dark Souls. Navigating the massive castles and cathedrals, you search for the Lord Vessel, an essential item in your quest. And just when the Lord Vessel is within reach, you are stopped by Dragon Slayer Ornstein and Executioner Smell. This deadly duo are among Lord Gwyn's elite forces, and they remain in Anor Londo to guard Princess Guinevere and the Lord Vessel. Defeating them is a true test of skill, as both characters are equally dangerous. Ornstein is a swift warrior wielding a lightning spear, and Smell is a formidable brute who wields a huge hammer. Upon defeating one of them, the other takes on the properties of their partner before resuming the fight. Ornstein grows to gigantic proportions, and Smell's attacks now have lightning added to them. Whether you defeat them alone or even the odds with allies, the battle against Ornstein and Smell is one of the highlights from the original Dark Souls. It's an incredibly tense battle, and a great example of why the bosses from Dark Souls are some of the best out there. Number 3. Great Grey Wolf Sith. Long ago, the Knight Artorias traversed the Abyss in order to save the kingdom of Ulasil. After the great hero's death, his most loyal companion, the Great Grey Wolf Sith, guards his grave and protects the art of Abyss traversal from the world. In order for your hero to fight the Four Kings in the Abyss, they must obtain this relic from Artorias' grave. But first, they must defeat the Guardian Sith. This confrontation is one of the most heart-wrenching in the entire game, and is made even more so if you have previously met Sith in the Artorias of the Abyss expansion. Sif is one of the most unique boss encounters in all of Dark Souls. A massive wolf who wields her master's sword, Sif's movements and attacks are very graceful and powerful. While she isn't one of the most difficult bosses in the game, she is one of my favorite because of her design, story, and emotion of the boss battle. Sif has seen firsthand the terror of the Abyss, and she wants to protect you from it, even if it means defeating you. What makes this fight even more heartbreaking is toward the end of the battle, Sif will start limping, and she flails and tumbles while she swings her great sword. You as the player may have no wish to kill her, but you need Artorias' relic because the four kings must be stopped. Farewell, Sif. You and your companion Artorias were true heroes. Number 4. Gravelord Nito. Nito is the Lord of Death, and a possessor of one of the all-powerful Lord Souls. Deep below the surface, in a realm known as the Tomb of the Giants, Nito rules over his kingdom of the dead. Nito's soul is one of the Lord Souls needed to complete your quest, and so you must venture down into the blackness to do battle with the Gravelord. What makes this battle one of my favorites in the game is Nito himself and his troop of skeleton warriors that accompany him. These skeletal henchmen are undying and will continue to revive to fight you unless you defeat them with divine weapons. While the skeletons are troublesome, it is Nito who is the real threat here, as his spectral blades and miasmas of darkness and disease can very quickly finish you. Nito's imposing presence and the arena you do battle in makes this fight a very frightening one. But with skill and patience, you will eventually overcome Gravelord Nito and be granted his Lord Soul. Even the Lord of Death can be beaten in Dark Souls, and I must say that is pretty spectacular. Number 5. Manus, the Father of the Abyss. Ages ago, the furtive pygmy, also known as the Primeval Man, inherited the Dark Soul. This ancient being was eventually laid to rest, but a great many years later he was unearthed by the Kingdom of Ulasil. Tricked by a shadowy primordial serpent, the people of Ulasil did twisted things to the Primeval Man, and his rage was so great that his humanity went wild, and he became a monstrous creature known as Manus, the Father of the Abyss. To save the kingdom and dusk from the Abyss, Knight Artorias and his companion Sif ventured into the void. But the legend of Artorias was false. Artorias was not able to prevent the spread of the Abyss, and he was overcome by its utter blackness. In his last sane moments, he shielded Sif from the Abyss, and the hero knight Artorias was no more. The hero who actually rescued Dusk and stopped Manus is in fact you. Pulled back in time, you come to finish the fight that Artorias started. After traversing the Abyss once again, you come face to face with Manus, a truly terrifying foe, and one who would see the darkness overtake the world. However, you are not truly alone in this fight. If you recovered Artorias' silver amulet, you can protect yourself from Manus' dark magic. And best of all, if you find Sif in the Abyss, she will join the fight against Manus. This younger version of Sif may not be as powerful as the one we must fight later on, but she is every bit as brave. Fighting alongside Sif or not, Manus, the Father of the Abyss, is by far one of my favorite boss battles in Dark Souls. The story behind this whole battle is incredibly fascinating, and Manus is a challenging monstrosity with attacks that can do insane amounts of damage. Everything about this fight is amazing. The music, the chasm of the abyss, fighting with Sif, it all makes for an absolutely fantastic finale to the Artorias of the Abyss expansion. If some of the characters in Dark Souls 2 are anything to go by, we haven't seen the last of Manus, and perhaps we will fight him once again, in some shape or form, in Dark Souls 3. So those were my favorite 5 boss battles in Dark Souls. What are some of your favorites? Feel free to share in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to praise the sun. Oh, and also leave a like. Until next time, keep having great adventures, everyone.
I thank thee, as do we all.